Hello, all. Welcome. We are going to get started in a couple minutes to unlocking our financial freedom. And I'm really excited about sharing this stuff with you. So we'll hang a couple minutes, give people time to get in. In the meantime, I'd love to know where you're from, what brought you to this webinar, to this workshop. Actually, we're going to be giving you some stuff to do. So drop some stuff in the Q&A. If you want to tell me where you're from, I've got somebody monitoring that, and Wen will let me know what they see. Get comfy, get a sip of water, and we'll start shortly. Ah. There we go. They have access to the Q&A, right, Wen?
They do, and we have one from Texas.
It's Lisa Johns. I haven't seen you in forever. Good to see you here. I know exactly where Katy, Texas is. I've visited you guys there. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. And Adam from Kentucky. Awesome. Hey, Adam. Georgia. My daughter used to live in Atlanta. I don't know how far Brazelton is from Georgia, but that's awesome. Yeah, give people a couple more minutes and we'll get rolling because we do not want to waste anybody's time. How are we doing, Jennifer? Does it look like I should get rolling or wait a couple minutes, or when?
Looks like we have 11 people in right now. You may want to wait just a minute or two.
Wait, maybe a minute, but those 11 deserve not to have their time wasted. So we will make more than a minute here. 2:33, that's a good time to start. When I see the clock turn to 2:33, because it's 2:23, so we might as well start at 2:33. Actually, I should have made this a 2:23 presentation, and we could have really lined up the numbers. 2:23, 2:23. 2:23, 2:33 works. One more minute, we'll get rolling. Hoping everybody's having beautiful weather today. We still are here in Pennsylvania, but I hear we're in for a polar plunge. I don't know if that's countrywide or just here in Pennsylvania, but we're bracing. I think it's 9 degrees we're looking for this weekend. How exciting. Yikes, I'd pull out the old coat. I'm so psyched to share this with you guys, though, because these are things that I've never packaged together all three of them in one place before. But I've talked about like two of them together in certain places and one of them here, one of them there. And I've just been using these nonstop for the last probably year. And it's been a game changer in my own business. So I'm really excited to share these with you. We're using them in the Profit Map Academy and Mastermind now too. And it's just changing things across the board. So I can't wait to get us started. In fact, it is now 2:23 at 2:33. So we're going to get rolling and talk about unlocking financial freedom. So first of all, why should you even listen to me? Give you a very short background just to say that I'm a CFO who was in corporate for a long, long time. But for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been working exclusively with entrepreneurs. These are some of the folks I've been working with and have really refined kind of how to make finance and accounting accessible to today's entrepreneur. Not just accessible, but really useful and almost a friend instead of sort of an enemy or something that entrepreneurs may tend to avoid. So that's what we're up to. Very quickly, what's my why? Well, this is my why. It's the family at Christmas. That's me, my kids, my bonus kids, one of my animals and one of my grand animals. And in the middle there is my wife and I. That's Deb, who also works with us in the business, recently retired executive. And then the animals are Diego sitting there on the couch with Deb, Tally lying down calmly on the pillow, and that is Murphy somehow trying to help me with somebody's QuickBooks, and then Gilbert, who just kind of stands by and watches everything. But this is my why. This is why I do what I do. I love what we can do as a family as a result of our work that we've always done, and it enriches all of us. So that's why I do what I do. Now, I got you on here, and I'm going to tell you there's something you can buy, but I'm not going to spend any time on it until I get to the end, except to just tell you what it is now, share the link so that you can kind of make sure it works. And then if you have questions, we can address them at the end. But what I have done with all this experience working with entrepreneurs now is put together a Profit Map Academy and Mastermind. And it's a membership for entrepreneurs, mostly six-figure folks in here, 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs are here. And it's a guided, done with you walk through a digital course that has live coaching and a mastermind experience. And what's become as enriching as the coaching and the course itself is the actual mastermind of these people who are developing. But the bottom line is it's all underwritten by a proven blueprint and a step-by-step action plan that helps you transform your money hamster wheel, which I know we all have. We know we're making it, but it's not showing up in our bank account for some reason, into a really calm, clear, confident understanding of how your money's coming and going and how you're going to achieve your financial freedom. And that's what we focus on in every single meeting that we have, in every single module of the course. We're focused on getting everybody who is a member that level of clarity. And it's really, you kind of probably sit there and go, well, who is this right for? What's going on here? Well, we're carrying you through from wherever you are with your money story and your finances and your business to a full, confident, clear, and financially stable business owner who's absolutely confident in how their business is feeding their personal financial goals. So who is this for, right? It's for you if you've ever struggled with your finances or been frustrated with a bookkeeper. Raise your hand if you don't know even kind of what questions to ask about your finances and your cash. And I find this among people who are just starting out, but also people who have been in business and have 7- and 8-figure businesses. They just have different questions, and they have different questions they don't know to ask. And the big one is if you're done with having kind of that gray cloud hang over you about your finances, like, am I going to look tomorrow and my bank balance is going to be 0? Or is the other shoe going to drop? Am I pricing right? Am I going to lose all my customers? Is a pandemic going to wipe out my business? That sort of gray cloud that just kind of hangs there in everything you do until you get this clarity. Makes you sound questionable with your pricing. It makes you not hire people when you should hire people. All sorts of things like that. This gray cloud can have, massive impacts. You need to be willing to commit an hour a week to your financial well-being. And if that's not you, then this is not a mastermind for you. But if it is, that's all it is that you commit. It can be either in one of the calls with us where we do things together or in doing some homework. And of course, the classics, you're not a jerk. You don't pass judgments on others. That's a big part of our mission here, is to not be a judgment zone. And you work to live, laugh, and make a difference and make money. So if it's a hobby, this isn't for you. But if you're in this thing to make money, every week we're all learning new and better ways to make, keep, and grow the money that we've got. So that's it. I want you to try something though. Could you do me a favor and drop the link to the Profit Map Academy and Mastermind in the Q&A or somewhere where folks can see it, so that they can try it. Just make sure it works and they get to that, and then they can ask questions at the end if they need to.
Yeah, really quick
right,
about that. So there's
Yeah.
not a chat, but if you ask a question in Q&A, I'd be happy to respond to the question with the link.
Perfect. Maybe, I think I saw Jennifer on here. Maybe she can pop the question in and you can answer it, and then everybody can see it, right? When you do that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so feel free to click on that, but pay attention to me first, because it's all about me right now. Just kidding. Let's get this thing rolling. So what are we going to talk about? 3 things. First is something I call money roots. The second is enough is enough. And the third is the biggest secret. And the reason we're going through these things is at the end of this call, I want you to have 3 very actionable things you can do to actually shift your mindset, but not just your mindset, the reality of your financial situation. And if even just one of these things resonates with you and you do it, you will see a change. If all 3 of them resonate with you and put them in place, then you're going to see exponential change. So let's get right to it. The very first one is uncovering our money roots. So what do I mean by that? Well, y'all probably recognize this as a pressure gauge, a pressure valve. And we all have these. And believe it or not, into us has been bred what the limit of our pressure is, or the point at which that we believe that pipe would blow up and explode because we've gone beyond our limit. And it's all built on some beliefs that we have and that were established for us long before we had control over what was going into our head. So in a nutshell, our subconscious was essentially formed in the first 7 years of our lives at a time we had no ability to understand or filter what was getting into it. So without any filter, without any question, and 100% relying on the people who are keeping us alive, stuff just flooded into our subconscious with no screening. And then we got to be around 8 years old, 9 years old. And then what we did, because we did learn how to perceive things and we did learn how to filter, is we sought out things just by nature that would reinforce everything that had been put in our subconscious, whether it was ours or not. Okay. So we are now stuck with, live with, have embedded so far in our being that we often don't even recognize it as limiting beliefs, a set of limiting beliefs around a number of things, but specifically today, we're talking about limiting beliefs about money. Okay. So what do I mean by that? I want to take you on a little journey here and have you participate for a minute. And I want you to come up with what is your very first money memory. Okay. So here what I mean is think back as far as you can remember as a kid. And what's the first thing you remember about money? Now, it could be that you picked a quarter up off the street. It could be that your parents took you to church and you put a certain amount of your allowance in the past plate. It could be that you got your first job when you were really young and saw your first dollar bill handed to you for the effect of that work. It could be anything, but I want you to come up with it, what you think it is, okay? I'll give you a quick second to think about that, because actually what I really would like you to do, go back to that memory and then make sure you can't think beyond that to something before it, okay? And once you've got it, just hang on, because I'm going to tell you what I want you to do with it. All right. I'm going to assume everybody's got it now. We're going to go on, because you can always do this exercise later if you can't think of one right now. But what I want you to think about is, how is that memory influencing you today? And I'm going to tell you the story about the little thief. So I was a little thief when I was a kid. Yes, your favorite CFO stole money. I thought it was my right, for whatever reason, to have any loose cash that was lying around the house. Not only that, but to have any loose cash that might have been lying in a wallet, to have some bills that might have been left over from a grocery run. Who knows? If it was there, I stole it. During the periods of, I'm going to say, I was probably 8 to 9 years old is probably about the time frame. And I always carried a lot of shame about that. What happened was, and the reason I broke the habit, is I got accused of stealing something I didn't steal. And I was like very self-righteous about it at the time. But that affected me really heavily and made me realize, number one, what I was doing was very wrong, and that I'd continue to not be trusted the rest of my life, whether I did things right or wrong or not. And at that age, that was a searing memory. And into my subconscious had been placed a whole lot of stuff about not ever stealing anything. Like literally, if you worked at a company, you didn't even bring a pen home from work, kind of thing. That was stealing. So I had that inbred, not inbred, wrong word, whoops, that subconscious that I hadn't had any part in developing. And then I had my activity where I went and stole. Put those two things together and clearly concluded that I was an awful person. Now, it didn't affect me, I didn't think, forever, right? I thought it was over, I'm done. But I did know I always got really like yutsy whenever somebody questioned my integrity. And I could feel it was that same moment from back in the room when my parents said, "Oh, I know you stole that money from," it was the Dorrits. I'm like, "No, I didn't do it." So if anybody ever questioned my integrity, I was wildly triggered, and I never paid attention to it. I just knew I was triggered. Then one day I had a coach who did some work with me. And what I ended up doing was going, wait a minute. If I add up the math on the money that I stole between the ages of 8 and 9, just made some rough guesses at it. And if I had put it in the stock market back in 1970, 71, when this happened, and had left it in the stock market until today, which at the time was about 5 years ago, it would have grown to a certain amount, a certain six-figure amount. And all of a sudden I realized that that six-figure amount was the limit that I was making in corporate America. I'm not kidding you, like within $10,000. And I realized just how powerfully that memory had infected my concept of how much money I should or could make. Now, what did I do? Coach made me go put a post on Facebook and say, this is what I did. I was a thief. That was a whole traumatic thing, but I did it. And the feedback was like, yeah, so what? You know, lots of kids were thieves, or, you know, I can't believe this has been bothering you all those years, except for my sister, who came back and said, you can pay me back now then, who was probably the one I stole the most from. But anyway, sister aside, it was freeing. All of a sudden, even in the corporate job I was in at the time, something happened that changed the nature of how much income I was making. And I am not making this up. This is absolute truth. And it went up by 25% right on the spot. And it wasn't soon after that I left. And now I have my own business. And those numbers are crazy, crazy small now, because when you have your own business, you're, you know, running a business and your revenue is a whole different thing now. But I will bet you, if you dig hard enough, you may not have been a thief, but there's some story around money from way back in your childhood that is influencing your current level of income. Okay. So let's carry that a bit further. What happens with that is your current level of income also becomes what you define as enough. And we're going to go into what that means in the next section. But before we jump there, I want to just to reiterate the things that we heard and dug in on that probably are so much part of your psyche that you don't even think about it. And I'm going to put a few up here, and I'll bet that you're going to have a million more. Okay. First, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. Anybody heard that? Pretend I can see you raising your hand. That's highway robbery. There's another one. We're not made of money. We need to tighten our belts. We don't have two dimes to rub together. Those rich people, they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and money's the root of all evil. Anybody who has money has power. Anybody who has power is corrupt. That was certainly part of my thinking. Very, very deeply embedded in my thinking. Okay. So here's what I have to say about that. Enough is enough. Okay. Now we're going to dive into part two of this. So thing number one, we've just covered. Think about your early childhood. Find a thing, maybe two things, maybe 4 or 5 things that become so patterned inside you that you don't even realize they're holding you back. And I will tell you, if you had said to me before I did that exercise that something I did when I was 8 years old was holding me back from making money, I've laughed at you. But I would have known deeply inside that I had this shame I'd been carrying about the thievery, and it was a whole secondary benefit. But all of a sudden, I wasn't ashamed anymore. I apologized. It was wrong. I was 8 years old. But that's a secondary benefit that you get from the first one. So I want you to do that. And I definitely want you to tell us the story in Facebook if you go through that exercise and learn anything. But now let's talk about our definitions of enough. Okay. So I want to ask you kind of, what is your enough? Because what you'll find is that most of us, especially from middle-class backgrounds, generally have enough, right? Whatever our enough is. Say our enough is to get food on the table, keep the bills paid, the lights on, and pay our rent. And we always bobble just around having about that much money. And we come up, we have that much money. We stay there, we get that much on a regular basis. It's just something we know we can do. We're always going to have enough. We may have to scrape and claw a couple times to have some of those things that are enough. We may have to borrow some money. Our credit may go bad. I mean, there are things, but we will do what it takes to get that enough. Okay. And if we ever get a little more than that, and this is why this guy's floating here on the water, if we ever get a little bit more than that, it doesn't stay. Something happens to make it disappear. We go spend it on something we don't need, or we get a tax bill in the mail that we didn't know was coming, or a family member needs it, or who knows what it is, but we never really stay up above enough. We always stay just at enough or just below it and fight our way back. So here is a little hack that has worked brilliantly for me and for a number of people in our mastermind. what is your enough? Okay, so I want you to think about what your enough is. And for purposes of this example, we're going to say that your enough is you can pay your mortgage or rent, you can pay your bills, you got enough to cover health costs, and you can get your groceries. Okay, oops, sorry, hang on, let me do this again. And that's what you call enough. And it's enough because somebody at 7 years old probably told you that's what the money you need. Anything else is kind of extra, right? So we have enough and we have extra. And our enough right now includes these basic things that are essentially survival. I don't know why this is, oh, it's animating by itself and I don't want it to, but sorry about that. So we have enough. Now, what I want you to do is change your definition of enough. Raise it a notch. Okay. Now I want you to say, my enough isn't enough until I get vacation, dining out, and have something to give to charity. And I want you to just redefine that for yourself. It's a little bit of a hack, but you're going to struggle with your subconscious on this, but just redefine it. Make it so that now your new water level, which you're always going to hit no matter what. I have no idea why this thing is flying through without me here, so I apologize. But make sure that your enough is what you conceive to be the next level up for you. Okay, that's what we want to make sure of. So then once you've got that, once your enough becomes, I don't quit until I have vacation, dining out, and charity, raise it to the next level. And it's going to take 2 or 3 months to really embed this in your psyche, but you can just keep moving that level up and up and up, because the truth of the matter is we will always do what it takes to get enough. So let's just redefine what enough is, and we'll always do what it takes to get to that next level. Okay, that's thing number 2. Pretty straightforward. All right, now the biggest secret. Now, I hope this doesn't fly ahead of me anymore, but here's the biggest secret. You're going to laugh for a minute and go, oh God, I've heard this before, but I ask for you to hold on because I'm going to give you a very specific exercise to use. So many of you have probably guessed that the biggest secret is around gratitude, but not just on paper, not just, oh, what am I grateful for? I'm going to write it down. Oh, what am I grateful for? I'm going to list it in my head. I want to give you a very specific exercise around gratitude. Okay. So here we go. I want you to write down 3 things right now that you already have in life that you like, that you really like, that make you happy, that bring you joy. Any 3 things, from a family member to a favorite water bottle to, you name it. Just pick any 3. So for this example, I will pick my dogs, my wife, and my water bottle are 3 things that make me extremely happy. Okay. Now what I want you to do, and this is a very important part of it, is to take a minute and go back to the very first time that you had or saw or bought or met that thing. Okay. And write down next to each one of those things, what was the first feeling you had when you realized that was yours, that thing at that point that was part of your life and was going to bring you joy. Remember the moment, close your eyes if you need to, picture yourself in that moment and be there with it. Okay. So in my case, I'm remembering the moment I saw my wife across the room for the first time. I'm remembering when I actually realized how cool this water bottle really is, that every time I sip out of it, it makes me smile. But that's what I want you to do. And I want you to just feel that for a minute, right? It generally, my stuff hits me right here. Wherever you feel feelings, feel it. Okay. All right. And then whatever it is, however long you've had that thing, there have been occasions where you felt that for a moment. Me, every time I take a sip of this, I go, not every time, but every 10th time, it's like, that is a really cool water bottle. And I'm glad I've got it. It makes me smile. Okay. But how many times do we really step away, a week, a year, a month, how often, and be grateful. And if you don't like the word grateful, call it appreciative. I know there's a lot of back and forth around grateful versus appreciation. How many times do we really step back and feel that feeling while we're being grateful for the thing? So the next time you think of that thing, I really want you to elongate the time, okay, that you spend in that moment. We want to draw out that moment of appreciation or gratitude. And what do I mean by that? I mean by that, I want you to think of it, hug it if it's a person, get it if it's a thing, remember it if it's a lost thing that brought you joy, whatever that is. Remember the first time you got it, used it, met it, saw it, whatever it might be. Take a deep breath and relive that feeling for at least 60 seconds. And let me tell you, when you think you've hit 60 seconds, you probably haven't. It's a long time. All right, I'm going to ask you to pick that thing right now. And I'm actually going to not speak for 60 seconds while you think about it and really feel what you felt with that particular thing. I want you to hold that thought starting now. Hey, there we go. Now that probably felt like an hour, right? Just sitting there watching a minute pass by, but hopefully you spent it in that gratitude and appreciation, because now you kind of can't avoid being and feeling like you're in a really good place. So what's important about that is then as you come across things having to do with money, whatever they are, I want you to recall that feeling. Pick one of them and recall it. So I've turned it into a daily routine, which I'll share with you. And I will tell you, when I have done this daily routine faithfully for 30 days, there is always a major shift in my life or business around money. Now, I don't often remember to do it for all 30 days. In fact, I'm in the middle of a 30-day challenge right now with it myself. And there have been 3 or 4 days that I've missed. And you may not be the kind of person who needs a 30-day daily routine. You can get there another way. But with a lot of these things, it's discipline. My coach was actually talking to me about discipline today. Doing things is not what's hard for us. It's getting to do the thing that's hardest for us. It's actually taking the step to get into action. And that's why I make this a challenge for myself, because it helps me make that step to get into action. And I really want you guys to try this. So this is the routine I have. I set aside 10 minutes. For me, it happens to be when I get out of bed. And here's the rule. Do not taint this time. Don't allow it to be interrupted. Be fiercely jealous of this time. No interruptions, no giving up, no shortchanging. You saw how long 1 minute takes. Imagine how long 10 minutes takes. And what I'm asking you to do is stay in a state of joy for 10 minutes. Not a big ask, but it often can be a hard thing to get ourselves to. And do it daily for 30 days. Okay. To really amp it up, here's where you can really bring this thing home. You can take notice of every single thing that happens from today through those 30 days around money. Whatever it is, you find a quarter on the street, you get a new client, you get a bill you didn't expect, good things and bad things, whatever happens around money. Take a series of pictures if you want on your phone or journal, or take a quick note, but pay attention to what happens with money. And then this was actually for the challenge, but I will be telling everybody on day 31 in our group that I'll email. In fact, for this group, I can do it. We can see who's here. I will email you on day 31 to remind you to reply and tell me what's changed in your money situation. Okay, if you've done it for the 30 days. So 30, when will remind me 31 days from now, we'll have the email of everybody who's here. We'll shoot you an email and say, did you do the thing? And I think we actually have a form that can help you guys do this, which if somebody will ask a question, Wen can paste a link to that form in as well, so that we can get you rolling on this daily routine. And we will email you after 31 days to say, hey, I really do. This changed for me, or thank you. Great. Thanks, Jennifer. And we'll get that form link in here and go ahead and grab it, because I will tell you that it has been a game changer. All right. Those are the 3 things. Very simple. Put them into practice and watch what happens. Number 1 is absolutely, let me go back here to the beginning because it's easier. Actually, I don't have to do all that, do I? That would be harder. Let's go backwards. You're going to do the gratitude exercise. You know, enough is enough. And then going back. Is it easy for me to go back? Let's see. Yeah, where are we? My very favorite, because this one was just so enlightening for me, which is your money roots. Okay. Those are the 3 things that I'd love for you to do day in and day out for the next 30 days. And share them. Feel free to email me at pam@prioritiesllc.com to let me know what's happening for you. But you will see a shift if you give it a try. All right. So that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you in this workshop. And I hope you interactively played with it. And I hope you grabbed the resources that were made available. If for whatever reason you didn't, we're going to be sending out emails after the workshop, and we'll make sure that the Google Sheet is attached for you, and also the link. And I'm just going to go through again the Academy and Mastermind and what you get from it. So it's all about know-how, accountability, and community. So circling back to the fact that doing the thing isn't what's hard, it's actually taking the step to do it that's hard. That's what we deal with in this really awesome, awesome community. And yeah, Lisa, I will go through the assignments again real quick here. First assignment, I want you to think about your very first childhood memory, maybe 2 or 3 of those memories, and how they are affecting you today. Make some connections between, what this does is it fires off your awareness of how much stuff has been planted in your brain, even not necessarily against your will, but without you having the ability to screen it. And once you start to recognize some of those thoughts that have come from that first childhood memory of money, you start to recognize more of them on and on and on. Maybe you weren't a thief, but something happened with you and money way back when that is setting your limiting belief around money. Okay, so that's assignment number 1. What's your first childhood memory, and how do you think it's affecting you today? Thing number 2 is define your enough. What is it that you will never let happen? You will always make enough money so that you have this much. What are those things that are included in the this much? Then the exercise there is to say, okay, if I really had the next few things I'd like to have, what would they be? Maybe it's adding an extra vacation or a new car or the ability to buy your parents a house or whatever it might be. Now I want you to redefine enough to be those 3 things. And I do it by putting sticky notes all over the place, looking at it in my journal every day, and starting to go, okay, it's not enough until I have those things. Literally, not enough until I have those things. And that's turning a lot of my shame around money on its head, because I'm defining some things that I want to have, not just the things I need to have. And there's nothing wrong with wanting and getting things, or whatever it is you want to do with the things. Because the truth of the matter is, and you got me on a tangent here, it's not the money that matters, right? In everybody's case, it's some different kind of joy that comes from having the freedom that the money brings. Okay. What is that joy for you? And define that now as part of your enough, so that instead of working just hard enough to get just the enough that is the food on the table, now it's not enough for you. You don't give up. You don't stop in your mind, because it's not enough for you until you have the steak on the table instead of the hamburger. Okay, that's assignment 2. Assignment 3 is pick 3 things that you really love in your life. Sit in the feeling of those 3 things 10 minutes a day. Just get the joy that comes with them for 10 minutes a day, and then pay attention to everything related to money during the next month. And as you do, remember the gratitude session that you've just recently had. We're going to rewire everything around money. Okay. Now, the one thing and the reason that we're going to rewire everything about money is because we want to flip your subconscious on its subconscious head. And where we used to say things like money doesn't grow on trees, we want to replace that with words like there is so much money out there. And by the way, when money runs out, we print more. In fact, if money runs out, we create all new money, like crypto is all new money. So money is not the thing. And no, it doesn't grow on trees, but it doesn't need to. That's highway robbery. So whenever anybody charges for something, it's highway robbery. Well, I'd like you to think about this differently, especially as you're pricing your goods or services. Money's not highway robbery. All it is an exchange for value. If you're providing value, you have every right to expect somebody to give you money for that value. So get that one out of your head. We're not made of money. No, we're not. We're made of feelings, and we're made of the feelings. And in some cases, money can help us have the freedom to have more of those awesome feelings. Some cases, those feelings don't need money, and that's fine too. But no, we're not made of money. The whole point is the feeling, not the money. We need to tighten our belts. Replace that with, hey, we get to make choices about our money. We've got it. It comes in. There's money out there. Whether I have a lot or a little, I make choices about what to do with it. It's a choice thing. Tightening our belt is one choice. Don't have two dimes to rub together. So why would we want to rub two dimes together? Let's just dismiss that one altogether. Born with a silver spoon in their mouth, which is the one that's kind of inferring that rich people suck, is let's switch that to looking at things this way. Luck, or what we sometimes say, you know, the lucky rich or the wealthy, the inherited rich, or whatever we want to call them, however we want to badmouth them. Really, they've had some element of luck, but luck is two things. And luck is available to a lot of people. I won't say everybody because that's crazy, but it is available to a lot of people. And it's the combination of two things. One is opportunity, which we have no control over necessarily, unless you agree in manifesting opportunity, which is a separate conversation. But the second we do have control over, and we don't need to be victims about this one, and that's preparation. We can be as prepared as we can be from our given situation for when that opportunity comes. Or we can just kind of hang out and go, you know, oh, wow, that opportunity went to so-and-so. I deserved it more. Well, that's not going to do anybody any good, but being prepared so that when the next opportunity comes that is yours, it sweeps you along with it, that we can do. So instead of saying everybody else was born with a silver spoon in their mouth, instead start to look at the impact you can have on your own luck. Money is the root of all evil. No, it's not. It's the currency of trust. It's what we allow ourselves to say, hey, this is how much I value what you do in some thing that everybody agrees to as an objective measure. That's all it is. Okay. So let's talk about the Profit Mapping Academy. I've rambled on enough about the three things I do to shift my money story. And you have, hopefully, Lisa, that laid out the three tools to use. But I really want to talk about this opportunity very quickly in case you have questions about this or anything we've talked about. What is the Academy and Mastermind? Well, it's a community first and foremost, but it's got a core curriculum of bite-sized videos and action requirements to graduate through all the levels from entrepreneur wherever you are to a fully clear, confident understanding of the money in your business and what you can do to make it grow and shrink and how much you can take to serve your own purposes. We have tools, workbooks, we've gamified it. We give you tons of hacks like this. I've given you 3 examples. Well, I got a library full of these things for everything having to do with money and business, and actually money and personal lives too. And we do spend a lot of time on mindset training. And this has been the most awesome thing in the mastermind community, because I know about this much, but when people start firing stuff in these meetings, the things that have changed and shifted have been astounding for our members, and it's really cool to see. And I get a lot more tools for my bag as well. So, and then we also have a members only group, Facebook group, where you can ask all your questions. It's a community of entrepreneurs. The other cool thing is we often share business leads in there. So there's a lot of business changing hands inside this community. And it's moderated by myself and Wen, who's helping us today as well, and a team of bookkeepers. That is the Profit Concierge team. So that's a place where there is no judgment for any question. There is no stupid finance question you can ask. And 9 times out of 10, when people do ask that question, 3 or 4 people jump on and go, oh yeah, I was wondering that too. So even when we don't know what questions to ask, it's a very cool community because you start to see, oh, right, that is a question we should be asking. And then we have weekly Zoom calls where we really reinforce this community. We have a learning deep dive every month where I pick a module and really jump into it, just all the way down to the bottom for how to put it to work in your business. We have member spotlights, which is our nice and gentle way of saying hot seats. So basically, when I know somebody's struggling with something, or if they kind of self-identify, I'll say, hey, do you want to be one of the spotlights? And we will dive in hard on whatever the issue is they're dealing with. Cool thing about this, almost always when we pick one of those member spotlights, 4 or 5 other people are like, oh God, yeah, I've got that problem too. And right in the spotlight, we'll develop whatever tool they need or whatever training they need to be able to take care of that problem right away. So I've got a ton of experience with the things that entrepreneurs come across, and on the fly in those meetings, based on the profit map that I know so well, which is the blueprint for being a business owner, frankly, I can always target exactly what we need to do to get that person over whatever that hump is. And then we have the mastermind call itself once a month, where it truly is just it's a facilitated mastermind. I can never tell you what's going to happen on these calls, but they're my favorite ones because I never know what's going to happen. And it's just really, really helped bind this community together into something else. It's really the kind of thing where the rising tide is lifting all the boats. And then 1 week a month, we have just community office hours, just kind of open office space. We can put people in a water cooler room where they can talk about what's happening on Netflix. We can put people in a little conference room if they want to have a meeting about something that they're working together on, or myself or one of the Profit Concierge bookkeepers can hop on with somebody in a room. We can kind of split up and do our own things. And then there's just a common space where we all gather and have office hours, a little music in the background. We can chat if we want to. People can ask questions if they need to. So in other words, it's a done for you digital course with this coaching and mastermind. It's a proven blueprint that I've got underneath. I hate that term, but it is true. And everything in the course modules is 8 to 10 minutes, very bite-sized, and always with action items that you can take to do right after it. We hone you in on exactly which modules are the most important for you. And our whole point is to transform your money hamster wheel into a calm, clear, confident understanding of how you're going to get to your own financial freedom. So how much is it? It's $350 a month or $3,600 for the year. It's month to month if you do the monthly fee. So it's not, you can leave anytime you want, or, stay forever, which would be my biggest wish. Because the more people we get into this community, the more people we're convincing that finance really does need to be an integral part of your business. And it can be fun. It can be integrated in a way that's very, very positive and gets rid of that gray cloud. So here are the couple ways to reach it. If you've got a phone, you can take a picture of that QR code, or I believe that we've dropped the link in once. I think it stays there. And we'll be sending this in an email after the fact. So with that, I'm going to open this bad boy up to questions. And I think that Wen is curating those for us. So let me stop the share here, and I am available to answer questions as soon as I stop the share. Hang on, I've got to look at my other screen. Stop the share. There we go. So does anybody have any questions I can answer? I can be on here for around 15 more minutes, so I'm glad to address anything questions you might have about what we covered, the 3 things, or the Academy.
I have a question here that says, how do you suggest documenting the things that happened around money for 30 days through that Google Doc? Are there any suggested apps or methods that you use to really nail down how you're feeling about them?
That is a really good question. I'll tell you what I do. When something to make me aware of what's going on, of course, every morning I do my little 10-minute thing, but then I always have my phone with me. So if anything happens around money, a bill crosses my desk that I didn't expect, a client decides to take on a new service that I'm like, wow, I had no idea that was coming. I just take a photograph of something around me at the moment where that happened. And then at the end of the day, I take all those photos and put them in an album so that for the 30 days, I can go back and look at those pictures and it'll remind me of all the stuff that happened around money. And what I inevitably see, first of all, sometime in that 30 days, something ridiculously wonderful happens around money or accumulates around money. But that's how I capture mine. Other people like to journal, like literally right when it happens, scribble down a note in their notebook. Other people like to, at the end of the day, go, well, what were all the things that happened about money? And they'll write them down. But I'm also, if anybody has a suggestion, drop it in the Q&A, because that's just kind of how I do it. But great question. Any others out there?
I've got another
It
question
couldn't have
here.
been that clear. Whoop, go ahead.
I've got another question here that says, how will I know if my money mindset has actually changed after this? Will it be obvious or manifest in small ways?
God, that's a great question. And I'm going to say both. And from my own experience is what I'm speaking from. I'm sure everybody's got a different story. But I did notice that it happened incrementally. But I also noticed all of a sudden that, not all of a sudden, with that big discovery around the thievery, I noticed that change that happened as a result of that change. Once that one thing had happened, I was able to see that in the everyday sort of micro changes that happened. And I started making more changes. I've changed the way I talk about money. There are certain sentences I don't utter at all. I've changed them to be totally different sentences. And then I see something else change as a result of that. So I needed something big to happen first that became kind of my baseline that I could refer to anytime I started to dip into doubt. But it doesn't have to be a money thing. I think all of us can look at something in our lives that we did for some disciplined period of time, because it is true. The hard part is not what we have to do. The hard part is the discipline to actually do it. And every single one of us has done something like this in our time, whether it was be on a diet program for weight loss or to get ready for a race, whether it was stop looking at the phone 24/7, whether it was put money aside for a vacation, whatever that thing was. We've got an example of where discipline, sort of repetition, has changed something. And in truth, that's the only thing that ever really changes anything. So any one of those experiences that you have, you can recall that and apply that memory and go, oh my God, that worked here. So is it working here? And that'll open your eyes to small things that have changed, that if you didn't take the time to notice it, you wouldn't be able to line up and look at as, wow, all that stuff happened. Oh, there's my cat. Great question. Great question. All right. Any more out there?
I do have one here about the Academy program. They said,
Okay.
I know I need help, but I don't know whether I should do my Academy or the Academy program myself, or just go ahead and hire a bookkeeper, or both. How do I figure that out?
That's a really, really good question. And what I would say is there's an answer to whether or not you need a bookkeeper. And if it were me, I would get in the program. Remember, it's month to month. Get that question answered as part of the program, because the answer is it depends on whether you need a bookkeeper or not. But there's a very cool set of tools in the modules here where you can pretty much answer that question very quickly. It's what do I need to do for bookkeeping? And with that, you can make the decision to get a bookkeeper. And you'll know from that as well, ooh, do I need a little more than that? Or do I really just need a bookkeeper at this point? Because frankly, depending on where you are in your business, it could be everything from you don't need a bookkeeper to you do need a bookkeeper, but you only need them quarterly, to you do need a bookkeeper and you need to really ramp up your understanding of some things. So it could be anywhere from, nope, I'm in good shape. And then you just leave the academy, except you'll be hooked in by the community. Just kidding. then you leave the academy. Or it could be, yeah, I really do need a bookkeeper. Now, how do I find one? And we walk you through that. We get you bookkeeper found, and then you leave the community. Or it could be, wow, there's a lot I need to learn about being a business owner and understanding my finances. And you stick around for a while. But that's why we make it month to month. Because it's not an easy question to answer without context. Do I need a bookkeeper or do I need the academy? I think you need both right now, but I don't know until we get you in there and take a look.
We
Great
have a question
question.
in here from Willow Evans. Says, powerful exercise. Most of my memories and current feelings are filled with lack. Even the things I have gratitude, love, and appreciation for are filled with it. What if I can't take care of these cats? What if I can't replace this? How do I reverse this? Start small?
That is such a great question. I remember a time in my life, Willow, where like things were just going great. Like I literally was walking around a room going, it was a hotel room at an event that we happened to be throwing back in the day. Lisa might remember this, but I was just high as a kite. I'm like, this is so much fun. I love my job. I love my family. I love my work. And then all of a sudden, this horrible feeling of what happens if I lose it all came flooding over me. And I'm like, how do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of this? It was before I knew a lot about gratitude. But what I do, Lisa, is literally, and when I hit those moments, or not Lisa, Willow, when I hit those moments where I'm like, I can't find anything to be grateful for, anything I'm grateful for, it scares me to lose it, is I recognize that everything about what if I can't take care, what if I can't replace, what if, it's not anything that's happened. It just hadn't happened yet. And I'm like, wait a minute, why am I wasting time right now feeling something that may or may not happen, when if it does happen, I'll feel it later anyway. So I'm not going to miss that. And if it doesn't happen, I've totally wasted my time. So I utterly logicked my way out of that to say this, and this is not an implication on you. This is what I said to myself. This is the dumbest thing you've ever done, Pam. You're having a great time. You're high as a kite. You're smiling from ear to ear. And you're going, hey, there's a 50% possibility that this is going to go away. So I want to feel bad about that now. And I laughed at myself. That's how I broke it. I laughed at myself. I thought the practicality of that is absolutely ridiculous. Because we are going to have bad times where we feel bad, where we're sad, where we're hurt, we're depressed, where we're broken. We all have those in our lives. I'm 60 years old. You can know for sure those times have happened. But what I realized is I would rather live in that feeling when that thing happens than anticipate it. And it became a very logic-based, forced reprogramming to recognize it and laugh at myself. So I hope you can give that a try. Maybe next time that feeling hits. Any others? Great questions. I am so glad you guys were on here and hopefully got a lot out of this. I really enjoyed doing this. I want to get these hacks out to everybody in the world because they've just been game changing, and not just for me. Like I've had people who said, look, I heard this crap from you, Pam. And I was like, whatever. But then I actually remembered it 3 months later and said, what the hell, I'll give it a try. Nothing else is working. And they did. And it's not because I've taught you anything magical. I will tell you one other thing about this. I'm not teaching you anything magical or that I know that nobody else knows. I am teaching you what every single person who's had massive achievements in this world, every single person who decided to throw a religion together, every single person who you look at and go, wow, that's an unqualified success right there. These are tools that are available to all of us. You've heard about them in a million different ways. You know, the universal laws, Abraham Hicks, God, Jesus, Buddha. You've heard about these things. These things are written about and distilled so many different ways down so many different genealogies that it's just my way of interpreting all the stuff I've heard and pulling a few things from it that make a small difference and then sharing them with people. So anyway, this isn't any big dark secret, even though I called it the biggest secret. It's just a way to take some of those things and make them usable for us in our day-to-day. So I am so thrilled you guys were here and look forward to getting a couple of emails to you, one in 31 days to remind me what happened when you did this gratitude exercise for 30 days. Everybody take care.